Hello, everybody. My name is Francis, and welcome to our first episode of our Quest podcast. This is Disclosure Day and our quest of self discovery. Immediately going to the movie, I already have an idea on what it was gonna be like because I've watched a lot of science fiction films and they're one of my favorite genres. And I immediately thought of two films. It was Arrival and Project Hail Mary. And now you'll question me, why am I talking about the two other films, Arrival and Project Hail Mary, when trying to discuss a Disclosure Day that was recently released by Steven Spielberg? Well, I'm trying to have a path of discussion wherein in trying to discuss their interconnectedness, they almost, because they have an almost very similar themes on trying to upgrade our consciousness, try to open our minds on the possibilities of an extraterrestrial life or another supreme being as discussed in Disclosure Day. And in that sense, it also redirects our questions on our path to self-discovery. That is a very big claim, especially when this is our first podcast, and it's a very interesting topic because it encompasses so much of what I wanted to say and what I wanted to share about my thoughts and about my ideas here on this platform. And we're gonna begin with the discussion of Arrival. So, in the film of Arrival, it's basically trying to invoke the same emotions, the same feelings on the viewers or the masses, wherein it poses a question like, how do we react if there is ever an alien structure or a machine that we're hovering around our skies, and how will this disturb our realities now, and how will this shake up our form construct of our reality? And the very similar thing that they had was in the film Arrival, they have an entire core concept of the gift of language being given by the alien species to Amy Adams in the film. When that in using this gift of language, this truth about certain concepts of language, communication, and maybe other truths that were not disclosed in the film, it kind of solved our problem regarding internal and external conflicts of territories that were evident in the film, because the film was highly militarized, and there was this scene wherein Amy Adams talked to the, I think that's the president or the prime minister in China, and when speaking about their truth, or when speaking their own Mandarin language, Amy Adams conveyed a message wherein the Chinese officials have backed down or have toned down their military stringent plans, and that solved their problem, that smoothen every transactions and political arguments. And because of that language, or because of that gift that the alien species have given Amy Adams, it helped us humanity understand each other because of that universal language. And I think I have seen another clip wherein, because in the film they didn't really put out a subtitle, an English subtitle on what Amy Adams have been talking to the Prime Minister of China or the President of China. But after the press release and the film release, there are a lot of translator wherein what I got there was Amy Adams was speaking about the Prime Minister's wife dying message. And it really just talks about having the capacity of the character of Amy Adams, having the capacity of trying to relate with the Chinese president, Chinese prime minister. She was able to relate on a very personal information about that leader, about that nation's leader, the Chinese leader. When you've tapped into that aspect of a very personal information about a person's life, you really open up a whole lot of connection, special connection with that individual. And because of that special ability, Amy Adams, the character of Amy Adams, was able to persuade the Chinese prime minister or the Chinese leader to back down to a lot of tension or conflict that may harm the humanity. I don't know if because aside from the language, there's also a theme of time not being linear. And what I mean about that was when the characters in that film learned about the gift of the language handed over to Amy Adams in that film from the alien species, it also explains the non-linearness of time. And because of that, Amy Adams have provided a future, and I don't know if I'm speaking the absolute, if I'm trying to make sense now, but she was able to predict a future wherein the language that they've given to us humans can help all of us. And then because of that form of communication, it also explains the non-linearness of time. What I'm really in particular with this was the non-linearness of time and the gift of the language from the aliens that have been handed over to Amy Adams through her dreams, to personal appearances, physical appearances, especially in the aliens appearing in her dreams. These uploads, meaning the alien species, have the intention of helping us. That's the core message of the film. When they want to help, and they've passed on this information with us in the form of dreams and in the form of a special communication. Now, going back to Disclosure Day, it is a very similar theme wherein Emily Blunt have persistently and demonstrated the power of empathy. Because in the film of Arrival, it also talked about that, the power of empathy, the language of love, the language of a special language wherein we can all have a universal connection. And that is love in itself, or that is empathy in physical form or in another aspect. I think it just meant to give out a message that love is a universal language and that empathy is a universal language. Going back now to Disclosure Day, there are a lot of moments wherein Emily Blunt was able to relate to another animal in that film, and then when you really connect, when you place yourselves not in just wholly into the being of another person, you will understand every circumstances that led to their behavior, personality. And then when you truly understand those circumstances, you'll be able to relate, even you'll be able to shed tear from the emotions that they've been feeling, that they've been grieving. And in that sense, you were able to connect with the other being through empathy, through feeling the other person. And then there's gonna be uploads of, for example, Emily Blunt immediately knows their name, know what are their concerns, immediate concerns, their past traumas. She was also able to view that into her consciousness. And that's not just the mind that was opened up, but the heart that opened up. And in that field, in that heart field, or the love field, or the empathy field that they able to tap on, that she was able to tap on, she immediately had uploads of informations regarding the other person. She was able to relate and show empathy, and in that sense, she was able to connect, to have a special connection. It was a very striking idea that they reiterated in the film. Even in the trailer, they've already disclosed it, that empathy is really a superpower, a next generation superpower. And really, that's what makes us human. And that's what separates us from every technology that we're having today, that we're developing. Our capacity to tap into that dimension of love, of relating to each other, to connecting to each other, to helping other people, and trying to understand other people. There is a certain kind of oneness concept in that aspect, that this is a collective connection of oneness. And that's really a beautiful thing when trying to convey that into a creative project such as these films. Another film I want to talk about was Project Hail Mary. This is based on a novel, and I've read a few chapters into it, but I haven't finished the book yet. But I'm sort of in the latter final portion of the book, and it just invokes us. It just challenges us, really. It's the same concept. It challenges us and it invokes an emotion when trying to relate to other alien species in the quest for trying to understand the astrophagy in the film of Project Hail Mary. There was the same concept. We had the same conflict with the other alien species, Rocky, in the name of Rocky. When a lot of people were able to shed a tear after seeing that film or after reading the book, when you shed a tear, when you felt the emotions of another alien species that does not have a human form like us, that does not behave like us, but we're able to convey a universal characteristics of empathy, of love. Because Rocky also cared for their planet. We have the same conflict, we have the same struggles. We were able to empathize and shed a tear inside the cinema or when you've watched it at home. If you've had that experience with the film, it just means that it just helped us, or it just relieved us from the primitive idea of an alien species looking like a little bit on the stereotype of the mass media as an alien species trying to invade our planet, trying to erase all of our discoveries and developments, trying to corrupt our society, when in fact, when these kinds of creative projects, again, when these kinds of stories, of these messages have been formed in the minds of the filmmakers, in the creatives, in the artists, when these uploads came into their minds and they had the courage to create a project wherein this will be broadcast in the masses, in the collective, they seem to try to help us understand that these other beings, or the supreme beings more intelligent than us, they possess not just the horrors of what's the mainstream media have been trying to convey, with the alien species being destructive, being a negative force, trying to destroy the society. It abolishes all of that and then try to instill a message wherein what they've been doing all along was trying to help us and not trying to destroy us. I'm now nearing the end of this podcast, and one of the second to the last thing I want to talk about was the film does not really question your belief or whether or not you believe for this alien species to be true or not, but it just challenges our belief system of our structured reality of what we know is the truth, is the absolute truth now. Because these kinds of creative projects, they help us, they challenge us to reflect on our own humanity. They challenge us to take a step back and look at our own humanity. And then on a personal, individual level, it will try to criticize and shake up on what we have been trying to do here in our personal reality. What passion have we been trying to pursue? What is our motivation and why we do things? It questions our nature of reality. It questions a lot of our nature of reality and our belief systems and our on a lot of things that we accept now as truth. It just reminds us to be open to a lot of new things, of a lot of maybe a polarity of we have this idea, this theory that we've been accepting as the absolute truth all along, but there is a possibility that it might be incorrect and it might be a lie. So in that sense, it just taps on our motivation. It just helps us try to be sincere in what we do, to pursue our projects that we want to pursue, to have a sincerity on helping yourself build your character, helping other people, your family, and it just compels us to have an openness on why are we here all along. And then another aspect that I want to talk about was an alien just means you're non-native to a specific area. So for example, a foreigner, we call them an alien citizen. And in that sense, an alien, when I've searched it in the internet, is any creature from outside the earth. And then what I wanted to say was, let us remove the construct of our minds when trying to think of alien. They do not have a large eye, they do not have an oblong, a large head and a small body and a gray skin. Those are not the things that will concern us. Those are not the things that will help us try to accept those beings into our system or accept those beings who's been trying to help us. A perfect example of this alien, at the end of our discussion, I'm gonna try to walk you through our concept wherein aliens may be existing among us all along, rather than arriving in an Hollywood-style spaceship or the physical characteristics that I've just mentioned. An alien being may have been with us all along, and a perfect example of, I'm touching now into the realms of esoteric philosophy, of religion. A perfect example of an alien being who's been trying to help us, trying to help humanity was Jesus. Jesus Christ came into this earth trying to help humanity, trying to shake up ideologies of the past, and trying to give out a message of love, of empathy, of trying to humble oneself, of trying to understand, and giving us the Holy Spirit and trying to understand all of us with one tongue. It just boils down to the core message of Jesus being possessing an alienness and trying to teach us all of these concepts. It just grounds us back to us being human. It just grounds us to our capacity of empathy, to our capacity of loving, of caring, and of being humble and helping other people. It just grounds us into that idea. It just tries to ground us into that idea of going back to our own humanity. A lot of the articles or the scripts in the Bible saying that Jesus Christ was not from this world and that his kingdom was not of this kingdom. So that may be a literal sense or another figurative sense, but I'm just trying to make a point that Jesus as an supreme being of, or a god in other, in the Catholic religion, the God the Father, Jesus, and the Holy Spirit being one and the same is the greatest mystery in the Catholic religion. And all of these things that I'm trying to discuss and then I'm trying to connect with you as the listener, viewer, is we must be challenged with these kinds of creative projects of these uploads into the consciousness of humanity, wherein we must try to win battles of possibility of an existing warfare, wherein a new age that we've been trying, negative forces have been trying to reach. Humanity is being polarized, is being distilled into going through the streams of the influence of the negative forces, or maintaining our humanity, of our core ability of empathy, of love. These are organic capacity of human beings, of being able to relate to each other, to build bonds, special bonds with the divine, with the divine, with the collective, with your family. And in trying to do so, these projects have come about in order to shake up our, I think, misplaced ideologies and our misplaced, just our focus on, have we been being true and authentic with ourselves? Have we been connecting with other people, helping others?